Those are just a few terms to describe.
Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025, and you are in the Java Cafe. We are glad to have you here this morning. It is We Need to Know Wednesdays with Wu, or Mayor Wu. She's coming in just a few moments. Additionally, in the 9:30 hour, we will have Brother Wadi Muhammad from MTK Developments, not a stranger. Well, his dad was on. He didn't make it on that day. But Wadi Muhammad will be coming in along with LaKenya Rivers from Family Movement to chat with us. Oh, Sheena Collier just jumped on. Let me just jump in real quick because her birthday was yesterday and she wasn't on. And Sheena, you got a whole big shout out and everything. So check Facebook when you get a chance. But Sheena, good morning. Happy 25th birthday to you. Thank you for all you do in the city and Boston While Black. We really appreciate you. But in the 9:30 hour, I said that like a real Bostonian. In the 9:30 hour, Wadi Muhammad and LaKenya Rivers from Family Movement will join us to chat about their partnership with MTK Developments around affordable housing, specifically in the Grove Hall area. And so they're coming in at 9:30 as well. And the mayor will be with us in just a moment as well. I wanted to reflect back a little bit on our episode with City Council President Rusi Louis-Jean yesterday. There was an update that she provided after the show yesterday in reference to the TPS efforts of, Homeland Security. They are still being combated in the courts. Though the Supreme Court did what they did, there's still some jurisdiction and there's some ways that those that advocate and legal activists for us are still advocating to protect the rights of those that want to be here and trying to be here. So, Tony Richards, good morning. Good to see you in the room. We know why you're here. Good to see you, sir. I am trying to find a post from Councillor Louis-Jean to give the update regarding, here it goes. Okay. The update from City Councilor Louis-Jean is that what she said yesterday was, thank you. Update on the TPS news. Since the interview yesterday morning, federal judge held Trump's decision to end TPS unlawful. The Trump administration will likely appeal. And as I stated earlier in her interview yesterday, the Supreme Court has been ruling in Trump's favor on a lot of these immigration questions, unfortunately. There's a story here that was by Hassan Ali Kanu. A federal judge in New York has blocked the Trump administration's attempt to strip immigration protections from Haitians fleeing instability in their country. So that is the current state of things in reference to the TPS, specifically for the 521,000 Haitians that have TPS status in America. And a good portion of them are here in the city of Boston. So we're going to talk with the mayor about that in a little bit. We're also going to chat with her a little bit and get an update about White Stadium, as well as there was a story out in reference to a family attempting to memorialize their loved one. And so we're going to get clarity around that. Not going to go into too many details to be sensitive to the family, but I thought it was important that there be clarity around that because it in systems and structures and whatnot, we just don't want to, and I'm saying that this was the city's intent, but re-traumatize families through processes and things like that. And so we definitely want to allow the mayor to speak to that. We're going to talk a little bit about the renaming of the Dudley Branch Library in Nubian Square in Roxbury. We'll hear from her a little bit about that, as well as I'm going to ask her, for some updates in reference to situations and cases that the city of Boston is joining I believe it's doing its own a few cases suing the Trump administration, but the mayor adjoining herself with other cities and other initiatives to address some of this administration's, as city councilor Louis Jean said yesterday, the intent, I believe she said, is cruelty. And so we're going to allow the mayor to address that. She is in. We want to give her the proper time to come in, and I'll shut up. So I'm tired just from that. Mayor, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you I'm tired. I think it's just a little bit. I ran through there saving up some space, and I'm out of breath, just to be very honest with you. But no, I am. Thank you for asking. I'm okay. We'll chat offline, just to check in. But welcome to the Java Cafe. Thank you for being here as always every month. And Mayor, I want to first of all ask you, and you can address this as you usually do, in how Michelle is doing, and if you would like. Couple of things I quote unquote want to get out the way. You've named, it's in OCPF, it's in people's text messages, it's on TV. There's a lot of negativity that's come into this campaign. I seen an article that just came out. There's some comparisons to other cities and whatnot, big money. And I'm just curious again how Michelle is doing. But that I know that this stuff has it's political, but some of the stuff that and I didn't get the text. I heard about it. And I also saw an article that there's some very interesting intersections with some things, and you mentioned that last month. So that was a lot there, Mayor. That's why I'm tired. I'm going to shut up. Greet the audience, say hello, and we'll dive in.
Well, good morning, and good morning to everyone out there who is tuning in as always. I don't know, I guess more than anything, I feel kind of just there's this split screen almost, maybe is a way to describe it. You know, the family side is beautiful and just the best in the whole world in terms of the feeling it is to be a mom. And now in summer, the kids are starting their camps, and Cass was finally old enough to do the camp that Blaze has been doing. They teach sailing on Jamaica Pond, courageous sailing. So, you know, I've never grown up around the water. I don't know how to do anything on a boat or anything like that. So they're doing it. And Cass had been looking forward to it because you had to be 8 years old to be able to start doing this camp. And he kept hearing about it from Blaze. So he came home the first day of camp and he said, I just had the best day of my life. It was so fun.
He's in love with the water.
And then Blaze said, well, if today was the best day of your life, tomorrow's going to be the new best day of your life. Because they hadn't even done anything the first day. They just like did some of the, you know, knots and capsizing or whatever. So that's been really great. Obviously you can hear me. Let me see. I can show you even if I move this.
Is she in a walker? She just sounds like she's okay. I was going to say, she sounds like she's in a walker. Look at her. She's like, hey, I'm not camera ready.
So Connor's still doing the drop off to camp, which is why we're going to be here for a little while like this. So that side has been just like the reminder of what it means to see kids growing. And
while you're getting her, I want to say, Mayor, thank you, because you and other people sometime in this space, Councilor Louis Jean did it yesterday a little bit, and then she gave clarity, but you didn't go right into the work. And so I want to acknowledge that, because you have done that a couple of times. I'll ask how you're doing, and bang, you're right into policy. So that's improvement. Just as James.
Well, I guess where I was going was the split screen is like, this is real life, right? And there's always challenges and struggles, and every family, especially families who are juggling multiple generations, there's the beautiful and the like, this is really hard at the same time. And then I go into the world, and there's this like barrage of negativity, you know, like the ads, the trucks, we've seen some signs popping up in small businesses, and some folks who frequent those small businesses have reported to us that the owners say people had come into their businesses and paid them $50 or $100 to put up these signs from the super PAC in the window, right? So there's this feeling of like one constant stream of, you know, everything's horrible, everything's broken, everything's failing, and, you know, bad and in the world, and Boston is, you know, this dangerous, scary, you know,
I think Mara hit the mute button, Mayor.
And Boston is this dangerous, horrible place, and that is all in some ways astroturfed, right? The businesses being paid to put signs up, the like millions of dollars from Trump supporters and out of state billionaires funding this. So I don't know. This keeps me grounded and real in the work, which is already full of enough challenge and full of enough urgency.
Mara put you back on mute. She's like, listen, I need mummy time.
We're at the point in the campaign where I think people are getting real about tuning in and really getting to the facts of what's going on, and hopefully things will start to merge a little bit more.
Speaking of merge, Mayor, I know, there's the campaign side and, the policy side. And in the vein of some of this negative energy, I had your former colleague and still colleague in the work, but on the other side of the hall, City Council President Ruthie Louijeune come in yesterday kind of quickly, and I asked her about what was going on with TPS. We have the Trust Act. You're committed. We're a sanctuary city and all of that. I want to start off with one question. And in this, if you can update us on any cases that you and the city are doing individually and or a part of bigger conglomerate cases.
Yep.
What is the city doing to ensure, outside of the Trust Act, what are we doing? What's going on? What is the status for our Haitian citizens specifically, but there's others here in the city of Boston?
Yeah, so there's a couple places where the Trump administration has tried to not just stop the ability of people to come into the country for the first time, but to basically remove the legal status of people who came to the country and are here with documentation, with paperwork. So in one of these cases, thank you.
Family in real time.
In one of these cases, late yesterday, at the federal level, a judge ruled that they can't just basically pull the rug out and make TPS for Haitians void all of a sudden. So it was issued, it always is issued for a certain number of years at a time. So this, at least at the first level, of course, they're obviously going to appeal it and try to take it all the way to the Supreme Court, et cetera. But at this first level, the judge has said it has to last for the duration that it was promised and the program was established, which is through, I think it's February of 2026. So, they're still president at that point in time, and they can say at that point, we're not going to extend it. But for now, that is protected. There's another place that many of the immigrant residents in Boston had come in with what's called humanitarian parole, a program called CHNV program. Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans had come in with, if you had registered and filled out the paperwork ahead of time, a lot of it was through this app, right? That people, you could get the appointments and do it more efficiently, effectively that way. They had tried to cancel that. And so we're in a lawsuit on that front as well.
I wanted to just check in about that because there is, and in one of these points, Mayor, we can do an after dark sit down face to face, but there's a correlation. I've been calling out a lot of the energy from the national politics, this energy that is like anti-Black and xenophobia and anti-LGBTQ. And I'll just simply ask, are we completely buffered from that energy here in Boston?
So one way so even with these court cases, even when the courts step in and say, for now you're protected, it just is still hanging over everyone's daily lives, because then it's like, okay, what about the appeal? Is this real? Are they going to find a new way to take away my status? And even people who are citizens, right? My parents were not US citizens when I was born. So I am only a citizen because of birthright citizenship, which they're also trying to take away. And so far, it doesn't seem like they would take away that kind of birthright citizenship, but it's only a couple steps further down the road that basically any one of us is sort of not the kind of American that they want to see. And it's impacting basically all of our daily lives, from the kinds of jobs that we can have to the freedom and safety and bodily autonomy that we have, to who we can where we can be in community and where we can be part of kind of the energy and community. And all of this is, again, it feels so dark, like there's a cloud hanging over us. And at the same time, I know in Boston, we are doing so much to bring joy to residents, right? Trying to activate with block parties and summer programming and seeing our kids out and about. And yesterday I was at the Somali Independence Festival at Chief Jones Park, and we have events all week in the Cape Verdean community. We had our first ever Age Strong Cape Verdean seniors luncheon, which was so beautiful, seeing all of the generations coming out. So there's these moments of...
One quick question. Did you have chupa?
Yeah. Our team does it right. So the contrast between being able to celebrate our identities and our cultures and seeing how beneficial that is for everyone when we can bring people together, introduce you to new cultures if you're not part of that one, celebrate and appreciate what your neighbor brings to the table and what you bring to the table uniquely. Like, that makes Boston who we are, and we're going to fight as hard as we can, but it's this constant like reminder of how important this is, with how joyful we can be by celebrating and affirming all parts of our identity and our culture and our community, and then realizing that there are people who just desperately want to take that away from everyone.
Mayor, this is interesting because you mentioned block parties. You ended this piece with a piece of taking away. I'm sure that you are aware, and as much as people may say I'm capping or whatever, mayors, governors, CEOs don't unfortunately have the ability to have their finger on every single pulse of every part of the entity that they oversee. One of the things that has come up based on what you just said, interesting, trying to correlate this here. You mentioned a block party. There was a family that wanted to have, this has been, in the media and social media. So I wanted to allow you a chance again to address this. There's a family that feels impacted negatively by a process that, according to the story, was driven by residents in the area. Can you just give some clarity to why it was changed? And then one of the sticking points is that there was a taken way back. And I know to some extent you can't go into the details because of the sensitivity of maybe if it's case related, but can you just, can you talk about that for us a little bit, please?
Yeah. So I'm like 99% sure we're talking about the same case where, same situation where, well, let me just say, through our block party grant system, anyone can apply. And the idea is that you will go and talk to all your neighbors, and we can help you then shut down the street on the day that you want and give a small grant for, the hot dogs or the popsicles or snacks and refreshments. And that's, I think, the best way to support our democracy is to get people together and to bring community out. We had not honestly anticipated, it was kind of in the way the program was set up, that the block party grants and the block parties would be for people who lived on the street where they were going to host the block party. And it just wasn't kind of how the program was built, where a family had applied because they had experienced loss of a child, their son, on that street, even though they don't live there. And so they'd applied with that, and there wasn't like enough information in the program as it is set up to realize that this was a different type of situation than there usually is. And obviously, just such permanent, deep, forever loss that is carried by families who experience violence. And we need to do everything that we can, not just to prevent and drive numbers down year after year moving forward, but to make sure we're supporting families who already have been impacted and to provide supports and resources. And I was just, last Friday was the Survivors of Homicide BPD annual gathering. It was bigger than ever, with families coming out, remembering and celebrating their loved ones and the legacy and the impact. It was beautiful and heartbreaking. And we do that every year. But in this case, the neighbors who did live on the street did not feel comfortable and had not been a part of applying for or kind of designing this situation. And so the grant was given. The grant is still going to be used for a block party, but that location, because the family doesn't live on that street, is not part of how we set this up. So we're working to help make sure that we can find the right location, a park nearby, or
oh, it's still going to happen. You're working.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the family will have to, I don't
want to
speak for them, but the city is more than happy to identify locations that would be totally open, and then the grant will still, of course, apply.
So on both ends, this was it's resident driven in its design. You did mention that there wasn't a system in place to maybe in the narrative or whatever you mentioned, there was a program layout that didn't catch. This may just be a little different, but and we got to, I think where I saw the article, it might not have been one of the most favorable outlets towards you. And so spin and stuff like that. That's why I think it's important that we have these extensive conversations. Mayor, we're on a speed round. That's one of the balances between policy and the campaign piece. And so in that vein, if we could talk a little bit about, I know you went, I've seen you went around Juneteenth. We talked about the block parties. We talked about TPS. I'm going over my notes here. How can I tie? There's one thing, because I want to end on a good note. There's one thing that is another, sort of controversial thing around in the Nubian Square area, in reference to a place where people go and get books and read. Can you give some insight into what you were around, I believe, when this was, as a city councilor, Nubian Square was voted for? And can you just give, as quick as you can, Mayor, within 90 seconds, if you can, give some insight and clarity into what's going on with Nubian Square and the naming of that Dudley Library branch being named after the great, someone that's trailblazed for someone like me, Sarah Ann Shaw. Yeah.
Okay. So there is a library in Nubian Square. For those who are not familiar, it is beautiful and was redone. I think maybe it reopened in 2020 or something like that. It is the library for Roxbury, and the default for names of libraries is the neighborhood name, right? So down the street from me is the Rosendale Branch Library. Anyway, most libraries are named for the neighborhood, unless there's multiple libraries in the neighborhood, like in Dorchester, which is very big. There's a Fields Corner Library because it's multiple sort of sub neighborhoods. So this library is named the Roxbury Branch, or was named the Roxbury Branch Library. There's been an effort led by the wonderful Siddiqui Kamban and some activists to change the name of the former Dudley Square to Nubian Square, which was successful and had a ballot initiative to change the name of the square. So everyone voted for that. And then the name of the square was changed. After that, the MBTA changed the name of the station from Dudley Station to Nubian Station. And they also had asked them that the library should be named the Nubian Square Library, Nubian Library, rather than Roxbury Library. Now, there's a little bit of like,
there was an ask. There was an ask. We'll name that, to be fair. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yes. And the library board had considered that. And at the time, years ago, they decided, because it was the neighborhood level, or they wanted to keep it the Roxbury Library, not Nubian, because it was for the whole neighborhood and not just the small part of the neighborhood. But anyway, then after the passing of the late, great, amazing, someone who was a mentor and hero of mine as well, Dr. Sarah Ann Shaw, who touched so many lives, trailblazing journalist, devoted to civil rights and education and just about every cause, loved and was part of the library, the renovation, all of that. There was this outpouring from community that this should be a way to remember and honor her permanently. And so that was put forward, considered, and adopted. And I know some have felt then, well, why, if there was already a name that was kind of on the table as requested, why this one instead of that one? This is, this is how the board has voted. There's many letters of support and others who had reached out. And so from the perspective of the city, right? It's not like, you know, we're like counting down to a vote or anything in terms of 5 letters versus 4 letters or anything like that. But the scale was overwhelming in the community driven request for this. And that is the name that has been voted on now. And I want to, I think from the perspective of the library, I know the family and everyone, we want to make sure that this is also a celebration and something that we can have the time to talk with the library staff about, and everyone else who needs to have more conversations. But she is a part of the shining constellation of stars who have made Boston who we are. And so I think there's no more appropriate or fitting action than to honor the wishes of community and making sure that she will forever inspire people coming in through the doors of that library.
Absolutely, Mayor. Just one point of clarity, because I'll behave. There was an ask initially from some of the community, and then another part, and some of the community came. And what I ascertained from what you said was the support was greater around the renaming for Sarah Ann Shaw versus what was proposed from some community. And then there was another part of the community as well. And so that, and one last question, does the library board operate independent of you?
They are. So I appoint the members of the board, but they are a separate entity, and
it was a thought, and I wanted to ask. All right. We got a few things that I'm going to try to tie these together, because we have some guests that you was actually on with one of their dads last month, and then you're going to be on with him today. One of the things that you have talked about since a counselor, and now there's a whole bunch of stuff around it, commercial versus, all that. We could talk about that next month, is we are getting ready to bring in MTK Developments. And LaKenya, I'm going to ask you to turn that camera on to get ready to come in. Oh, she was right there and ready. So let's bring in LaKenya Rivers, and I can't wait to reflect back, because this is a very interesting time for me to see LaKenya and what she's achieved with this. And also, finally, Dad had to fill in for him last month, but we got Wadi Muhammad, who is, I believe, the CEO and co-founder of MTK Developments, so he'll give clarity to that. But Mayor, you're familiar with this project. And so first, I would like to give you all a chance to say hello. LaKenya, of course, I'm going to start with you and say hello to the mayor, and then Wadi as well. And then you all can converse for a couple of seconds about this project. I think it's either 366 or 388. Correct me. I'm going from photographic memory.
376 to 384, Buhalaf.
I was somewhere in there. All right, LaKenya, go ahead and say hello, sweetheart.
Good day, Mayor, and thank you, Mira, for helping your mom. I always thank the children when moms are busy and booked, because that's their mommy time. So hello to you and the Java fam.
Brother Wadi.
Awesome. Good morning, Mayor Wu. Looking forward to discussing the project today with you. Java Jimmy, always a pleasure to be here. Appreciate Pops filling in for me last time I was traveling for work. So looking forward to the conversation today.
We definitely did. Mayor, go ahead. And in that, Mayor, because I know you got to get ready to go. Any thoughts you want to give around this project and 50,000 foot level, but then specifically to this in Grove Hall, please, you all can just converse for a couple of seconds.
Yeah. Hi. It's great to see you both. I say all the time, we're trying to make Boston a home for everyone. And so one of the great, beautiful programs that we have is our Welcome Home Boston program, which thank you, MTK, for taking part in. The idea is that not only are we going to make sure that at the end of the day, there are beautiful, healthy, affordable buildings and spaces for a community, but that the process and the jobs of building them and creating them are also going back into reflective of and connected to our community. So thank you for making sure that we're getting the most value out of all parts of that value proposition. And just hats off, because I know it's not an easy time to be running a business, doing development, and also doing it so community focused and really with a heart to make sure that we're living up to the possibilities that our residents imagine. Thank you for being the best partners.
No,
Wadi, I'll let you respond here, and then LaKenya will close us out.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much, Mayor, for partnering with us in the Mayor's Office of Housing, for giving us the opportunity to be able to, again, build in a lot that I played in when I was a kid. I grew up on Interville Street. So thinking about building a Boston for all and equity being at the center of that, I think a lot of times when you see the investment, particularly in our communities, we don't get to live through that. So I think the focus on the mayor and administration, making sure you intentionally selected developers from the community who want to have a lasting impact in the community. We're just grateful for the opportunity and the support from the Mayor's Office of Housing of helping us navigate the process. So very grateful. Thank you.
Awesome. And I'd like to thank MTK for just including Family Movement on this project. We are a community-based organization. We like to call ourselves Family Movement, the one-stop shop, because when we access a family, there are so many avenues, so many barriers that they face when they're transitioning from homeless shelter, stable housing, and now getting as many families pre-approved to purchase a home. So this project is very dear to us. As Wadi mentioned, he grew up on the street parallel to where the land is. So did I. I grew up on Brunswick Street prior to purchasing our home. So this partnership and this acquisition of the land is not just for us a business transaction. It's more personal. We're pouring into the community that we once grew up in.
Mayor, I can still see you there. Try to pop the. Okay, there you go. Let's get her back. There you go. You can't blame that one on Mira. I didn't see Mira.
Internet. Okay. And every time I'm always like, with these Zooms, you see yourself, which I hate.
Yeah.
But it's like every time my hair looks messed up, I'm like, okay, there's the next Super PAC ad of me. Like, but you all are the best. Thank you for the work that you do, connecting all the points for families, for our city, and hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day today.
Mayor, one thing before you go, I just want to let you know, LaKenya is going to tell us about it, is LaKenya's vision for Family Movement was on a piece of paper when you and I were in Mayor Menino's office.
Yes.
You were an intern. So, a fellow rather. So just know that if you get a chance, go back and watch later. But LaKenya, we're going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. Mayor, I know you have to go. We didn't get to talk about the 4th. We know that pools are opening, and we'll check in a month from now.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor.
So I'll start right with there. I've been telling Wadi about this a lot, so he knows a little bit about this, but he'll get the full story from you today. So LaKenya, when I used to be in Mayor Menino's office, it was either an email, I saw you somewhere, and I think now this is going back, I've been out the mayor's office for 15 years. You either wanted to meet with the mayor or get something to him about Family Movement.
Yep.
So take us back.
Oh my gosh. So we are 15 years old. We are celebrating all year long. We're going to be vendoring in every community. We're going to be bike riding. So stay tuned for that. Join a cycle class to help us fundraise for this capital campaign. But yes, Mayor Menino, I do still have a photo, and, God bless his soul, with him, because he seen the vision. We did not get any city or state funding. We've been privately supported through sponsorships, corporations, and private donations. But yes, it was literally a vision to just help families in the shelter. Just a vision for that. And so we realized that families that were in the shelter, as they transitioned into stable housing, they needed more support. And with that support comes financial, bearings. And so then we started to partner with various shelters in and around Boston and helping those families transition from shelter, stable housing. And during a pandemic, we were able to get so many families pre-approved to purchase a home in 2020. And so our vision has been soaring since then of home ownership, just building generational wealth, ending the generational poverty and the curses that families face. We're now facing the dynamic of working with so many single moms. Now we're trying to blend those families together. So bring moms and dads together to get to that 90% AMI.
Now tell us what an AMI is. So people, we're learning in this space. What is an AMI?
It's an area medium income,
Okay,
where
yep.
they take the family and the income and then they turn it into a percentage. And so where these 18 condos are going to be built in the Dorchester Grove Hall area, this partnership is just such a blessing.
So we're going to go there. I want to save a little bit for Brother Wadi. So to the testament of remembering, I didn't know how it turned out. I think you all talked, or I at least sent it forward. It's even more of a testimony where you clarified you didn't wind up getting any funding from the city or state, but yet and still.
Now we do.
But now you do. But what I'm saying is you held on.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, you're at this point. And so, Brother Wadi, I'm going to let you jump in. And how did LaKenya get on your radar, the family movement? Like, you get to tell us about how the relationship formed.
Definitely. LaKenya, just, hearing her story, she is a phenomenal community leader in the work that she does. So coming across her paths was pretty easy, but there is a connection there with my sister-in-law and my brother, Marzouk Muhammad, who were actually naming the building after. So when I had the opportunity to kind of connect with her, and she was telling me about the conversation she had with my brother, who my brother was, he was the developer and was working on, developing housing as well. She told me about the story they had about wanting to be able to partner with my brother to provide housing for some of her families, right? The families that she was working with. So I want LaKenya to speak to that because I remember vividly, we were sitting on the corner of Blue Hill Ave and Brunswick, right in front of Wings and Tings. And she was telling me her story. And I think from there, we'll talk a little bit about the project and kind of the mission, it just aligned perfectly. And that's why, it's an important part of where we're at today. And where we're going with this project is family movement.
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I was renting on Brunswick Street in Dorchester Grove Hall area. And, Marzouk had been around our family. And so he's like, well, where do you want to take family movement? And I'm just like, honestly, I just see families having their own space, their own, whether it's a condo, whether it's a home. And at the time, we didn't have a vision for home ownership. And so I have to shout out some financial advisors. We have access to over 300 financial advisors. And so back then, we had no idea that we were going in this realm. So I feel like Marzouk, in the moment, he planted that seed of, well, what do you want to do? And, because I didn't know. Remember, it was written on paper. And so, I owe this all to God because the divine connection, divine partnerships is real. It's real.
Let me ask you, I want to pause a little bit, and it's not pause. It's actually related to a foundational piece of this. And so Wadi, tell us about Brother Marzouk. Yes. Tell us the legacy and the mission. Tell us, sir, about him, because he is at the foundation of this. And when LaKenya said, he planted the seed, I'll say that, and I felt the eyes getting a little watery because, it's still growing. So I'm gonna put you on full thing so I can get myself together. But tell us about him.
No, so my brother, Marzouk Muhammad, and let me take a step back because you got to meet Pops. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to meet my mom, but this wouldn't be possible without the grace of God, but also with my parents, right? Who I have a mom who was a social worker for almost four decades, working at ABCD on Geneva Ave. I have my father who was a lifelong teacher, and as he would say, he's a lifelong learner. And they instilled in us, I think, two really important things. One was education, right? And the second was giving back and being involved in your community. So we got to see, as me, the youngest of seven, I could see adults who cared and were giving back in the community. So that set the foundation, not only for me, but obviously for my brother, Marzouk Muhammad. Marzouk Muhammad was a community builder. His as you could hear from Lakenya, he was always trying to connect with people and see how he could help. Our mission or slogan really comes from Marzouk in terms of not just building buildings, but building the capacity of people. He saw the importance of how built environments, how that can change someone's trajectory, change someone's mind state. So he was a developer in Boston. He was part of the Roxbury Strategic Master Oversight Committee. So he wasn't just building buildings, but he was involved in the community and kind of helping make sure, particularly from a development standpoint, that it was community driven and that there was equity a part of that. So that's the foundation in terms of what we're trying to do and honor his legacy his beautiful two young boys who will be the future. So I think now for myself and Lakenya, as we have families, right, we want to be able to show the importance of giving back, right, and being involved in our community. And I think the Marzouk Plaza 2 is just the start of that. But I think, again, honoring his legacy and his work to give back in the community, we're just trying to build upon that. And also, I would say the legacy of not just Marzouk, but also my family, and my family being tied to the Grove Hall area for over 3 decades, right? So yeah.
I'll start with you here in this segment, Brother Wadi. Tell us about the plaza. What it's not just the 18 condos. I believe there's some commercial space there. There's there's some correlation with Daddy and Me and space and stuff. And so tell us about the plaza, and then Lakenya will come back to you and hear the benefit, because I love what you talked about homelessness, the stable housing. Most people stop at the stable housing, but not home ownership. Mm-hmm. And so Wadi, tell us about the plaza, and then Lakenya, we're going to hear the benefits and what are the benefits and outcomes for the families for which you're partnering with MTK.
Definitely. So the 370-6384 Blue Hill Ave is going to be a four-story building. On the ground floor, we have 1,300 square feet of retail space, where our intention is to sell to family movement. We'll also have a 1,300 square foot indoor-outdoor community space, as well as an art gallery for local artists. Floors 2 through 4 will be the units for sale. I think what kind of helps differentiate us from some of the other projects you'll see, but I also think specifically back to what I mentioned, the city being intentional about why they selected us, because there's not a lot of developers doing what we're doing. And what I mean by that is over 70% of our units are going to be family size, 2 and 3 bedroom units. We're obviously 100% for sale, 100% affordable. So those are some of the I think the foundation of makes our project different. And particularly that day I was talking about with Lakenya standing on the corner of Brunswick and Blue Hill Ave, we were going door to door and talking to community members about what they saw for the future of Grove Hall and what they wanted to see. We really want to focus on providing quality, affordable family workforce housing. And we believe what we are proposing to break ground in October is going to be delivering that for our community and for families from generations to come.
Lakenya, I see you clapping. What is the benefit? And tie in any way you want your philosophy. Family movement.
We're moving families.
Homeless.
We're moving. The elevator pitch for us is we are moving families from homelessness to home ownership. If people can't catch that, but the ultimate goal is to provide hope for our generation, for people of color. Home ownership is frowned upon. It leaves, or it plants a seed of fear, and so we remove that fear and include faith from the point from point A all the way to Z, because it's not easy. And I mentioned that we are a one-stop shop. So we have, and before we talked about this home ownership or planted this avenue of home ownership, my team, and I'm shouting them out, my team said, no, how are we going to do this? All things are possible. And so my faith is big, right? And so I have shared with them that this is the process. We're going to need partnerships. We cannot do this on our own. And as the mayor mentioned, she can't do none of this work of affordable home ownership without us. And so everyone has to pull in when it comes to families purchasing a home or just moving from one stage to the next. Homelessness, we are partnering multi-year contracts with various EA shelters. So what that means,
what is the EA shelter?
Yep. So you might hear the terminology now, EOHLC. So these are the emergency family shelters that are around Massachusetts. So we start
getting ready to close.
So there are some closing, but there are locations.
Okay.
I don't know of any that is closing that we work with.
Okay.
We just signed a multi-year, and I'm going to name drop because we just put this on our social media, signed a multi-year contract with Bridge Over Troubled Waters. That is a well-known shelter.
Heck yeah. We used to fund them. When I was a federal officer, we used to fund them. So, okay.
So now they are funding us to do the work with their families. And here's a little side note. I used to be homeless. I used to live at Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I used to work at Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Now Family Movement is contracting with Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
All right, and thanks for joining us today. Kenya.
But all things are possible. That's our ultimate. And I don't take this work lightly. Every client that enters Family Movement's roster, I want to at least show my face and say hello to them so that they know that all things are possible. So homelessness, stable housing, home ownership. When I shared this vision with my team of home ownership, my whole team now all of my team they're all homeowners. And so, the whole team. And so, and some are they own multifamilies. Some of them built their house from the ground up. Our first client purchased her home February 22nd of 2022, 2222. And so when a family saves $5,000, we match them $5,000. And so we can pancake and provide resources as a grant to these families that we're serving. And so to go into what Wadi just mentioned, our goal, our prayer is to purchase the ground level of MTK development and be that grounding source, not just for the families in that building, but for the community as a whole.
Now, Wadi, I hear you.
I'm just like, you got a mic to drop. I don't have a mic to drop.
I'm like, and we did say because us two testosterone holders, we want to let our sister close us out. But Wadi, I hear you in the background. Like, someone said that good preaching will either make you not want to preach or make you want to preach. And LaKenya preach, and I hear you in the background. So we'll give you response, and then LaKenya, you will really, you have to close us out. You can't say anything that's going to make Wadi or me in the background be like, you're just going to have to close us out.
It'll be for Java fam.
Okay. All right. Go, Wadi.
No, again, there's some mornings when I need to reach out to LaKenya to get that faith and hope, because obviously, being startup developers and going, obviously the city's been tremendously supportive. But you sometimes need a spiritual leader, and LaKenya can be that, not just for me, but for the community. So no, she's amazing, and you can see exactly why we want her to be our anchor tenant for the building, because she's not only just an anchor for our building, but anchor for so many other families that we want to make sure are part of the investment that's happening in Blue Hill Ave. So when you're thinking about kind of development, it is, the math has to math. You got to go through the different permitting process, and you got to, working with the different contractors and all that good stuff. But it's a mission, right? There's a mission behind what we're trying to do. And I think if the slogan, not just building buildings, but building the capacity of people. If you think about our story as startup developers, if you think about LaKenya and Family Movement, that's what we're doing. We're building our own capacity and hopefully building the capacity of folks around us as well. So I'm gonna give LaKenya the last word, because again, she is, and also I just want to give her flowers, because throughout this process from day one to where we're at, and we've still got some things milestones to get across. she has been there supporting and pushing us along. So we're very grateful for her partnership and friendship as we look forward to break ground in a few months. And we want to make sure the Java with Jimmy family and
I was just going to
community
ask for the date.
are part of that
Date.
groundbreaking as well, tentatively in early October.
Okay. LaKenya,
All
you have
right.
to close us out and
Okay.
and not make us want to respond.
Okay. Well, before I talk to the Java fam, Jimmy, I just want to thank you for the opportunity, just for seeing me. Every time you see me in the community, you're like, hey, sis. So I want to thank you and I appreciate you for that. And of course, Wadi, MTK Development, for just trusting us in this process. This is our first time as well as it's yours. And working together has made it so streamlined. So I appreciate you and the whole team that's working behind the scenes. My treasurer working tirelessly. Java Fam, you can find us on familymovement.com, all of our social medias, Instagram, Facebook. We need your help. We will be hitting different vendor events in the Dorchester, Roxbury area soon, where our goal is to get as many families pre-approved. You do not have to purchase. You do not have to purchase with us. But our goal is to spread the word, give the resources, and be able to get as many families pre-approved. My daughter just became pre-approved and she's 25. And so you can do it. We can do it together. And so also on the website, it does show a timeline of where we are, and we'll update it a little bit just to show where the timeline is, because we're in the stage right now of the capital campaign. So we're working privately, and then we'll take it to the public.
The only thing I'll say is that both of their websites are in the link, in the comments and link. So they both have spaces where you can go donate.
Awesome.
And learn more. Thank you, Java with Jimmy. We appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm going to get y'all off my screen because I promised LaKenya the last word. So talk to y'all later.
Okay. Thank you.
everyone.
I kept my word, y'all. I kept my word. I kept my word. I kept my word. All right, they're off the screen. Jesus Lord. So I'm sitting here, my eyes are wet on a couple of levels. One is I saw the Muhammad family when Brother Marzouk passed. I saw them go through that process. We were many in the community were impacted. And so for me to sit there when LaKenya said that he planted that seed and now to see it flourish at 376 Blue Hill is crazy. The other piece that I was sitting here and it gave me hope and inspiration, and it's a goal that I often attempt, is, do you see their collaborative spirit? Do you see how they complement one another? Do you see how they came into the space to see each other's value and came together, and now they're producing 18 condos, a commercial space in the bottom, with Family Movement being an anchor tenant that will provide services not only to those that are up, but to those that are they're in the neighborhood. Shit. Anyway, this is amazing. This is amazing. I'm leaving inspired today. Shout out to MTK Development. Shout out to Family Movement. Shout out to the city of Boston. I don't know if it's Sheila, Shagun. I'm sure Shagun got some hand in it because of the commercial spot. Sheila Dillon is over the Department of, I believe, Neighborhood Development or Affordable House. Yeah, maybe affordable. I don't know. But shout out to the city of Boston and the mayor and everybody that is a part. This is an example of that Welcome Home initiative. And so, all right, I'm tired. It is 9:56 and one update. Coach H and I are in text right now. I'm trying to get him to do 10 a.m. He wants to do 12 noon. So today was going to be the last show, but either at 10 a.m. tomorrow or 12 noon, we'll have a quick check-in with Coach H about White Stadium. We didn't get to check in with the mayor about that. And so I'm glad we were able to get clarity and accurate factual information around that process of, the library and whatnot. And I'll just leave that there. So that's it for me today. I see a few texts. Just let me make sure there are no programming notes that I missed. It should be on there, I think. Uh-oh. Now Daniel has me thinking that we're not streaming on YouTube. Okay. We're going to get ready to go, everyone. Oh, hi, Mayor. Okay, so I think we're Coach H said he's going to do 10 a.m. I'm not going to tell you what else he said. So we will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Coach H. We're going to talk about White Stadium and get an update about that. And Katrina, I need to, the timing is everything. Looking for which names, Katrina. Is that the Family Movement and MTK Developments? Their links or their websites are both in the comments. I don't know where you're watching. The job, if you're on James W. Hill, some of these links may not show up. It's a glitch in the system. But they both have websites, MTK Developments and Family Movement. Katrina, good to see you in the room. At some point, maybe we can check in because I believe you've picked up the reins from Tanya. I forgot her last name, Tanya D, in reference to Mass and Cass and you know, addressing those things there. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., everyone, you all are, oh, Milagro said I'm all set on YouTube. So thank you, Daniel. What was I going to say? Tomorrow at 10 a.m. And it was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. Don't forget, October 15th, we will have the Red Cup Awards and celebration of 5 years of Java with Jimmy. October 15th at 7 p.m. at the Museum of Science. All right. There are 50,011 comments in here. Shout out to everybody. Urban Golf Club Incorporated that teaches our young people golf skills that transcend beyond just golfing. Shout out to you over on Instagram. Look them up as well. And I'm not going to get into the hellos because it's just a lot of y'all on here. So have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with Coach H. And I believe that is, I think that's it. Hold on. Yeah, that's it, y'all. So we'll see you.